Do you remember when we all used to study the world wars in school, in history class? I think the number one thing that nobody understood, everybody was wondering, is how the hell all of those people at the time managed to let things get so bad that the entire world ended up involved in a horrible war like that. The first one. And then after a couple of decades, the second one happened. And then the wars, in the West at least, stopped. For decades and decades and decades. We, my generation I mean, we grew up in a world of peace. We've never experienced any war, and we were not even considering experiencing any war anytime soon. I bet none of us, when we were in school studying history, would have imagined that in a few years we would have had the answer to the question to why did people let things get so bad that the whole world broke out in a war. Look at us now. We're experiencing it on our own skin. Yes, I guess now we know how it happened. Now we know how they managed to let it happen. The situation prepared for a few decades without anybody really acknowledging it. And then at a certain point, things started to go a little bit faster, escalate in a few years until, everything exploded. And it exploded at some point, Nobody was expecting it. Nobody had a date planned or anything. This park promised nice views and nice little walks. I've been walking for a while to find a bench to have my breakfast. I finally found 2 benches. Yay! And that's the nice view. There's a wooded part. I would really love to go walking there, but it's all fenced. This park has a lot of potential, but it needs some care. This has been a military fort for about 100 years, starting from the 19th century, and a few decades ago it was transformed into a recreational park. Although there are still army activities here. And the recreational part is, it's not the best. See, it looks nice back there, but it's fenced. Cannot go there. And here it looks like I'm walking on literally an asphalted road where cars are parked from time to time. I wondered that for so long. How did the citizens at the time have felt? What were they thinking? What was in their mind? I guess now I can ask the same question to myself to have the answer. They must have felt responsible as citizens, or they must have felt not responsible because in denial of what was happening maybe, never imagining things could go so wrong. I'm sure of one thing, that probably most of them must have felt impotent, powerless, hopeless. responsible but powerless. Not knowing what to do, what to say, whether to keep living their lives normally, whether to do something, but then what? I feel the inevitability of what's happening around me in the world. I feel all the inevitability. I sort of accept it because there's nothing else I can do but accepting that history follows processes, and I'm just part of these processes. I'm just part of history. History goes in cycles. It goes in ups and downs. We are definitely living in an era of a down of history. It's all right. There is only one thing only that makes me infuriate in these situations in particular, that almost all the citizens before each war are convinced that there's one solution only, one way to solve the problem, which is the military intervention. The public debate is all about whether to stay on one side or on the other, whether to participate in a way or the other. There's not even the question whether one should react or not to something, to an action of a certain country. There's not even the question whether it's really our business, or maybe it's not, to intervene into some other country's debate or conflict. And it is absolutely infuriating to me that the only solution to a conflict that we are able to propose in 99% of the cases is the violent solution, is answering to an attack with another attack, is answering to a military attack with a military defense, is believing that the army has the possibility to solve any conflict. How? Don't you see the history? Don't you see what's happened before us? History repeats itself over and over again. We've witnessed so many wars. Has anything ever changed? Has any military response made things better? No, it hasn't. Maybe it has solved some issues, but at such a high cost that it was really not worth it. And it's not worth it today. It's never been worth it, and it's not worth it today. It never will in the future. Let's stop. Let's stop, please, using weapons, using armies. Let's abolish the armies. And you're gonna tell me, but if we abolish our army, how is our country gonna defend a potential attack that we might get from another country? Well, guess what? History has shown that groups that have no possibility to defend themselves are not attacked more than groups that have an army. And even if you have an army, the overall cost in terms of sufferance, of lives, finances, overall, is gonna be much less if one of the two parts doesn't have an army. But especially, we all preach peace all the time. But how is peace ever gonna be possible if it's never going to happen that one country that is the first one stands up and says, okay, from today, I eliminate my army. I will not have an army from now on. No defense. Tell me, how is peace gonna happen in the world if this doesn't happen first?